Hey, today we're going to be reviewing the user experience of Ledger Hardware Wallet and the complementary Ledger Live desktop app. I look at it in two different ways. As a product manager would, I'm looking at the different features and capabilities within the Ledger Live UI, and then also as a UX researcher, I am zooming in and looking at specific user flows. What are the different steps that a user might have to go through to set up their wallet and recover their wallet, just for instance. And I'm highlighting specific usability issues, not because I have a problem with Ledger. I think overall it's a good device. I think it's more of an intermediate level tool than something for beginners. But I'm trying to improve the crypto app ecosystem overall, and I wanted to give a look at hardware wallets. So here you go. Before we jump into the specific details in Ledger Live and using the hardware wallet, I want to first talk overall what is going on with this setup. So this is the Ledger Live desktop app right here, and it is a complement to this hardware wallet. If you can see it down here in the bottom right, this is the hardware device right here. Ledger Live and this hardware wallet work together in order to create a pretty good user experience and secure experience for holding somebody's crypto. So Ledger Live should be thought of as this management platform. You can view your portfolio here. It has a very nice user interface where it shows your account balance. It shows you all the assets that you own. It shows you the different crypto network accounts that you have. Could be Polkadot, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Kusama, whatever you want to install in here. And these represent your public addresses. There's a Discover tab, which Ledger Live opens up to third-party developers. So these developers can create app experiences within the Ledger Live app. So there's Xerion, which is a DeFi app. Paraswap is a DEX aggregator. Wire allows you to directly buy crypto with it using a credit card or something like that. Lido is an ETH2 staking platform, and Rainbow.me is a good way to secure your NFTs on the and view them on this Ledger Live app. Send and receive is exactly what you'd expect. Buy and sell is interesting. Ledger partnered with a centralized service called Coinify, so you can directly buy and sell your crypto assets from this interface. Swap is an exchange, so you can swap something like Bitcoin for Ethereum. Lend leverages Compound, which is a DeFi protocol, in the background, and it allows you to get a return on these three stablecoins right here. And finally, Manager is where you manage the apps that are installed on your Ledger hardware device. This Ledger device has a limited storage capacity right here of 144 kilobytes. And you install various apps on it so that your Ledger device can hold the crypto within it, or it supports that crypto network. This apps installed tab shows me which are installed, and let's say that I don't need Ethereum at this time. Well, I can remove it to free up some storage space and download another app here to my Ledger wallet. So you might be wondering, what are these apps that have to be installed? It's sort of this foreign concept. Definitely the hot wallets, things like MetaMask, don't have this kind of thing. But since we have this multi-device experience where we have a Ledger Live desktop right here, desktop app, and then we have a physically separate Ledger hardware wallet right here. So you use Ledger Live to download something like a Bitcoin app, and then it uses the master private key with the Bitcoin app to derive the Bitcoin address, and it sends that to Ledger Live. Because remember that the big security advantage with a hardware wallet is that the private key never leaves this device. This device is considered air-gapped, which means that there's no internet connection to it. So a hacker can't remotely access your private keys like they could do on a hot wallet that is connected to the internet. A wallet like MetaMask stores your private key on your computer, presumably, or your phone, and a hacker can remotely access this private key, even though these private keys are generally encrypted. So once you've installed this Bitcoin app and you've derived the Bitcoin address and it automatically gets sent back to this Ledger Live, then you can go to accounts and you can create a Bitcoin account And now you have this Bitcoin address, so you can start receiving funds with it. If you had an account balance, then you could send Bitcoin to another address. And this Ledger Live is querying the Bitcoin blockchain, and it's asking, is there an account balance associated with this public address? So that's sort of a very high-level architecture of what's happening between Ledger Live, the hardware wallet itself, and then these blockchain networks in the background. So what I just said before, this Ledger Live wallet is a way to initiate transactions. And so let me give you a concrete example of what that means. So let's say I go to send and I have my Bitcoin public address right here, and I want this recipient, I copy in another Bitcoin address to receive this. And then on the next screen, if I did have Bitcoin, I would enter an amount that I want to transfer between those two wallets, and that would be an unsigned transaction. So let's come over to this diagram right here. What we just did on Ledger Live is create an unsigned Bitcoin transaction. And you're going to, what that then happens is you send it to the Ledger device, this unsigned transaction, and it signs the transaction with the private key. Remember that the private key never leaves this device, so that we have to manually send it over there, sign it, and then the Ledger sends it back to the Ledger Live, the signed transaction, which Ledger Live then broadcasts to something like the Bitcoin network. And then the nodes would eventually add that transaction to a block, and then that transaction would be confirmed. So these are all ways that Ledger Live supports and complements the hardware wallet. It is what's required in order to make things happen, because the Ledger device isn't connected to the internet. And so you need this Ledger Live support, which is connected to the internet, and this physical separation of this private key that's not connected to the internet, in order to make things happen on the various blockchain networks. So this has implications for the user experience. Your hardware wallet has to always be connected to the computer whenever you're signing transactions. And so what happens is you initiate things on this Ledger Live app, and then you have to switch over to your hardware device and do confirmation, input confirmation onto here, like double pressing these two buttons to confirm that I want to send this amount of Bitcoin to this address, and then you come back into the Ledger Live app and confirm the transaction one final time before sending it to the Bitcoin blockchain. So this is a cross-device experience, or a multi-device experience, and it has implications compared to other hot wallets like MetaMask, which you're only doing one thing from one place in something like a browser extension or even a mobile app. And this multi-device experience, it adds some complexity and some time to these user flows, but there's also additional security. There is a reason why that people use and secure their crypto funds with hardware wallets. So let's look at what happens when you first unbox this thing and set it up for the first time. So you plug it into the computer, and that's what gives it power. And you click Set Up as New Device. You choose a PIN. So this is a 4 to 8 digit number. You have to confirm the PIN. And then it's going to show you 24 words. It randomly generates these 24 words. Overall, there's a 2,048 word list of what they call mnemonic phrases, and it randomly generates a number, and then that number basically selects words out of that list, and in this case 24 words, and these 24 words are your unique recovery phrase for this wallet right here, and it's going to give you access to your funds. So we have to copy down the first, or all 24 words onto a piece of paper, or however you want to store that. Obviously, they don't recommend putting it onto a device that's connected to the internet. It doesn't make sense to store this on Google Drive. That completely defeats the purpose of a hardware wallet. But in terms of the user input for this hardware wallet, there's two buttons here at the top. One goes left, one goes right, and then pressing both at the same time is a confirm or an enter input. And to be honest, I don't really have too much of a problem with these buttons, although they can feel unresponsive at times, where you click it and it doesn't actually change the input on the screen. So sometimes it can feel a little sluggish or unresponsive, but for the most part, it is a good enough input method. Anyway, so I am writing all 24 words down, and then in the next series, I have to verify or confirm these words. So this ledger device is just making sure that I copy them down in the right order. So the first word is fresh, so I have to select that first, and I go through and I reconfirm all of these words in the exact order that it gave me. And this confirms that I have written down the recovery phrase exactly. It says keep in a secure place. If you lose it, you're going to immediately lose all your funds, and processing. And then it brings me into the starting dashboard for Ledger, which has settings and then install app. And to install apps, as I've said before, you're going to have to use Ledger Live. But so this is where you then switch over to your computer to start actually using this hardware wallet. But before we switch over to the Ledger Live, I want to show you what the recovery process looks like. So the setup process takes about 5.5 minutes to scroll through all those words, to write them down, and then to reconfirm them. Yeah, it takes 5.5 minutes, and that's not too bad, really. The recovery process is a slightly different story. It's a little less user-friendly, and it's the way things go when you have these cheap hardware wallets where you don't have like a touch screen and really good user input. You just have really 3 different settings on here, left, right, and both at the same time to confirm. So it's difficult to navigate through this in the recovery process. The recovery process on hot wallets like MetaMask, you just use your keyboard to type in 12 recovery phrases. You can do that in 30 seconds. Okay, but this is different on here, and you'll see why in a second. How and when does recovery need to happen? Well, it can happen one of 2 ways. The first is that your hardware wallet gets lost or stolen or broken, and you need to buy a new hardware wallet and recover it using your recovery phrase on a new hardware or Ledger device. Or if you input the PIN incorrectly 3 times, then this Ledger device assumes that somebody's trying to hack into it and guess the PIN, and it wipes the private key off of this device, and that you're going to have to recover using your recovery phrase in a process you'll see here in a second. But yep, this PIN is just a way to unlock your Ledger wallet, or this Ledger hardware wallet, and it auto locks, I want to say, every 30 seconds to a minute. So it is an added security feature here. And if I import invalid once, 2 attempts remaining, 1 attempt remaining, so I've done 3 wrong attempts, device reset, and now it just gives me the option to restore from recovery phrase. Now to actually restore, I have to manually input all 24 words back into the Ledger device. So the first word is fresh, so I start by typing F-R-E, and then it gives me a subsetted list of words that start with F-R-E from that 2048 word list that I was just talking about before. And this is a small but really good UX consideration that they made here. Instead of making the user type all 5 letters of fresh, they only require the first 3 letters of fresh. Then they give me a list of words that start with F-R-E, and I click once to the right, and then I see that fresh is within that, and then I press both at the same time to confirm that word. That is the first word in my recovery phrase, and now I'm on to entering word 2 right here, and I do it so on and so on and so on, and I have to do it 24 times. Now there's a problem. The one problem is that if you enter the wrong, let's say you accidentally confirmed the wrong word for word 19 right here. I was just going too fast and I pressed both at the same time on the incorrect word. Then you're going to have to start this entire process over again. There's no way for you to go back to word 19 once you've moved on to word 20 to re-enter that word. So I'm going to have to put some random stuff for words 20 through 24 and then go back again to recover a new wallet. And that's one issue that I see here. I wish that when it says enter word 1, now it says enter word 2. I wish you could press left here to re-enter word 1. I think that is something that they should add, because it will cut down, if the user makes an error accidentally, then they're only going to have to re-enter that mistaken word instead of having to re-enter everything that they've done before all over again. And so once we've recovered the device, again, it says processing, and then it brings you into the dashboard on the hardware wallet. Okay, so we set up the wallet, we've connected the hardware wallet to our computer, and we have installed the various apps that we want to support on it. I want to receive Bitcoin, Ether, Ethereum, and Ethereum-based tokens, and Polkadot. And then we set those accounts up. So now we have public addresses for all these, and we already have account balances for one of them. But now we can go into sending and receiving crypto now that we have these crypto asset accounts. Okay, so starting with send, we go to send and we select the account that we want to send from. And here's another Bitcoin address that I want to send Bitcoin to. So I copy that in there. I put in the amount that I want to send. This is the dollar amount of Bitcoin, and we can choose the network fee in order to speed up or slow down our transaction to be included in a block on the Bitcoin blockchain. And then we go to a confirmation page here. I like this, that it shows, so it's going from account to this, and it shows a network fee, and it's highlighted in orange here, so it draws the user attention and says the network fee is over 10% of the amount that you're sending. I like this on a wallet called Trust Wallet, which is a mobile crypto wallet produced by Binance. They don't have this good UI here for high network fees. This would just be grayed out or white, which is the same color, and they wouldn't have this warning message down here. So I almost paid a $90 Uniswap network fee for a really small transaction, and I almost missed it because the UI wasn't calling my attention to it like it is here. Now, again, here is where the hardware device separates itself from a hot wallet. So on a hot wallet, we already would have been done, and this transaction would have been sent to the Bitcoin blockchain because our private key would be stored on the desktop if we were using a browser extension. But here we're having to switch to our hardware wallet device now to confirm, first of all, the address that we're sending it to. This is going to be displayed on the hardware wallet screen right here. So it's going to show the Bitcoin address we're sending it to. We're going to click confirm, and then the amount, and click confirm. And then transaction sent once we've made those two confirmations on the ledger device. Again, just to reiterate what happened here, we created an unsigned transaction for sending Bitcoin from my address to the other Bitcoin address for a certain amount and a certain network fee. We sent that over to the ledger device. It used the private key stored on that device to sign that transaction and send the signed transaction back to Ledger Live. Ledger Live then broadcasted that to the Bitcoin blockchain. Receive is interesting because you wouldn't expect that you would need to make confirmations on the device, but you actually do here. So I go to the Bitcoin asset, I click receive, I click continue, and all that we need to receive is just the public address, which should be stored on this Ledger Live wallet, Ledger Live desktop app. But it's now asking us to use the device to confirm our public address on the hardware wallet. And I looked into this as to why this needs to occur, and Ledger says that it's because some hackers might control the screen of Ledger Live and input in their Bitcoin address instead of your Bitcoin address. So Ledger Live is saying, we think this is your Bitcoin address right here, but confirm it on your Ledger device. So you go over to your Ledger device, it uses the Bitcoin app to use your private key and derive it into this Bitcoin address here, and then you confirm that this Bitcoin address matches this Bitcoin address. So sorry to get in the weeds there, but I just thought that was interesting as to why you would need to confirm on your hardware wallet to confirm the address that you would send Bitcoin to. Here in the Discover tab, we see the strategy that Ledger is going with. They're trying to become a platform. So users are going to hold their crypto on their Ledger devices, and this Ledger Live is going to become a platform similar to iOS and the Apple App Store, where third-party developers can come in. Look, they can go to this For Developers tab right here and create third-party applications that fit into this Ledger Live interface right here, just as your iPhone would display third-party applications and that you could use them from your iPhone. Ledger is allowing you to do this. So Paraswap is a decentralized exchange aggregator, and it injects your Ethereum address into this Paraswap app right here. It's a D app, and we could access it on our computer if we went to Chrome and went to the Paraswap app through the internet browser. We could do that as well, but this is nice because Ledger natively injects your wallet into this interface right here, so you can start making decentralized swaps. And you can imagine just the different composability that you can have. Like, this is a pretty limited list at this point, but people are going to keep adding to this ecosystem. It's going to become more and more powerful. Now let's go to the buy and sell feature within Ledger Live. This is an inbuilt feature using a third-party centralized service called Coinify, where starting with buy right here, we can select an asset like Ethereum that we want to buy. We select the account that we want that Ethereum to land in within our Ledger wallet. And we got to connect the device to confirm that. And there's some long loading times here. And now you actually have to sign up for the Coinify service within here. And this is a centralized company, and so it requires KYC to buy from them. You have to set up an email or like a username, and then put in KYC information like your residential address and date of birth. Put in where you live. I'm just doing email verification here. And you can buy crypto with either a credit card or bank wire. And I chose credit, and so you can put in your credentials in here. So I like the idea that Ledger has with bringing this into it. It's very important to be able to have this really well integrated in, but I think their actual execution was poor. It just was a bad user interface in here. There were these long loading times of just blank screens, and this is sped up, but that was 4 or 5 seconds that it was just a loading time, and I thought it was frozen. And then also for Ledger, this big proponent of managing your own private keys and your crypto, it's strange that they have these centralized services in here that are requiring KYC information. Like, I'm not sure if I put in my KYC, if now it's connected to this Ledger device somehow, you know? Like, so now I've basically doxed this Ledger device. Like, the serial number is connected with the information that I give them just to sign up to this Coinify service. So it's almost like it's contaminating the Ledger device with identity that potentially I don't want it to have. Maybe I want it to be anonymous. That's one risk that they have, at least in terms of user perception, when they add these centralized services into the app. Same thing with Sell. It's the exact same service. They use Coinify, and it's a really good idea, but the execution and integration itself is poor user experience. So first of all, I really like the idea of having an inbuilt Sell feature, because my main concern with transferring off of a centralized exchange onto a hardware wallet is that I lose liquidity. If I'm trying to sell a certain token at a certain price target, then the hardware wallet's not going to be the best place to have it when that price target comes up, especially if the markets are moving fast, which we all know crypto markets do. Then I'm going to have to transfer from the crypto wallet back into the centralized exchange and then sell it from within there. So I really like this sell feature directly in the hardware wallet, where you can offload crypto like instantly. But again, the execution itself is poor. So let me just show you how they didn't think of the user experience right here. First, for enter amount, they don't tell you that there's a minimum and a maximum, but they don't even tell you what those are. And so you have to randomly put in numbers until you can, until you figure out what the minimum and maximum is. So I start with 0.5 Bitcoin. It says, nope, the maximum is 0.23 Bitcoin. And then I say, okay, I want to do 0.001 Bitcoin. They say, no, the maximum or the minimum is 0.0059 Bitcoin. So there should be a range, like a slider or something. And then also, it should tell me how much Bitcoin I hold in my account. It doesn't tell me anywhere how much Bitcoin I actually have to sell in my account that is managed by this hardware wallet. And so I'm guessing at numbers right here where I'm going to have to go back up to accounts or portfolio to see exactly how much Bitcoin I have. So I know I'm barking up the wrong tree here with these usability complaints. This is on the fault of Coinify. They're the ones, C-powered by Coinify. They're the ones who developed this front end experience. But if Ledger Live is going to integrate it directly into their app, like it's an entire tab right here in their app, then Ledger is going to get criticized for including it, and the user perception is going to be negative on Ledger, probably more so Ledger than Coinify. Okay, now we move to swap, and again, it's just like buy and sell and other things within Ledger Live. It's a good idea. You should be able to swap one crypto for another, but it's bad execution. So let me explain why I think that it's bad execution. First of all, it requires that you download the Exchange app to your Ledger device in order to use the swap feature. This is a problem for me because, as you know, as I already said before, my Ledger device has highly limited memory. It can only hold about 2 apps within it, and I'm still talking as I'm unlocking my device right here, as you can see. That's why we got a warning message up here saying that you need to reconnect your device, 6159. You always need to have your device connected and unlocked in order to access Manager. So now that we're in Manager and I just installed the Exchange app, I want to again reiterate how annoying it is that I have such limited memory on this device right here. Because what swap requires is that when I go from token 1 to token 2, I need the app for token 1 and token 2, and then I also need the Exchange app right there, and I'm pretty much already at capacity. I can't really install any other crypto apps on this device at the same time. So just to go from token 1 to token 2, even if I don't have any of those apps, let's say, on my device at this time, then I have to uninstall everything and then install those 3 apps just to swap between them. This is really poor user experience, and I know I went for the cheaper Nano S model with lower storage capacity, but I just wasn't expecting these UX hiccups because I went with a cheaper model. Also, I dislike that swap requires KYC just to sign into it. Again, I don't know if this contaminates my Ledger device with my personal information, if it can be connected to the serial number or the addresses even on my Ledger device. Not sure. I don't know why Ledger decided to use these centralized services for the swap feature. In many of the other crypto apps that I looked at, they integrated DEXs and DEX aggregators as an inbuilt swap feature, but instead Ledger went with centralized services like Changelly and Wire, and that's why they require KYC just to even use the swap feature. Last thing is the amount of assets that I can transfer is laughable. It's so small. I can only go between 5 assets total: Bitcoin, Ethereum, a couple of stable coins, and Link. And those are the only combinations I can exchange between, which is totally laughable compared to DEXs like Uniswap and PairSwap like we have here. So I just don't know why anyone would use this feature right here when you go to Discover and you can get into PairSwap and you can use the DEX aggregator of PairSwap. Well, we all know that PairSwap is Ethereum based, so you can only go from Ether and Ethereum based tokens and exchange between those, whereas Swap does allow you to go from Bitcoin to Ethereum, which I think is pretty nice. But yeah, I just didn't like the execution of this swap tab. My complaints with the lend tab right here is really the same. Like, we can tell that they are using Compound DeFi protocol on the back end, but you only have access to several assets right here. Well, we know on Compound you can lend much more than just 3 stable coins, but they only give you access to these coins right here. And so it's quite limited compared to what you should be able to do. And again, going back up to Discover, we see that this Compound is coming soon for an inbuilt Compound app into this. You wonder, like, when this gets deployed, if they're going to continue to have lend here. So Discover and buy, sell, swap, and lend, they're kind of like overlapping on each other. And I think that the user interface can be much more simplified with just going with Discover right here and really trying to attract good developers into this Ledger Live ecosystem. The last thing I want to talk about is the native staking that's supported with Polkadot on Ledger Live. And this was a pretty good user experience. I do have some specific issues that I'm going to call out in another video because I don't want to get too much in the weeds in this video, but suffice it to say that you can deposit DOT into this Ledger Live. You can bond the DOT, then you can nominate up to 16 validators, and then you can see the rewards flow in on a daily basis under here. So in another video, I'm going to show you the step-by-step process that I take for staking on through Ledger Live right here. You could also connect Ledger to the Polkadot.js app, which is a desktop, or it's a browser wallet, and stake from there. And then also you can stake off-chain using things like Kraken, which is a centralized service, obviously. So I'm going to compare those 3 methods in another video, but I do appreciate the fact that Ledger is adding in these native staking capabilities. So that was the user experience review of Ledger Hardware Wallet. And it has a complimentary Ledger Live app, which is a desktop user interface that allows you to see the different crypto assets that you have, and then also gives you different interaction options with the greater DApp ecosystem. You can buy and sell your crypto from there, you can swap token from token, and then also you can lend using something like Compound. And also there's a Discover tab that allows developers to come in and build applications that will natively display in Ledger Live. So Ledger Live is putting together a platform similar to the iOS App Store, and it could be very powerful at the end of the day. So I like all of these features that Ledger Live put into the app, but the execution on some of them, particularly lend, buy, sell, and swap, is lacking. The integration does not seem as native and as feel good as it should. And there are specific usability issues within that really hampered my experience when using them. So I talked about that in specific parts of the video, and hopefully Ledger developers will come watch this video and they will make changes based on what I'm saying. So appreciate y'all for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.